Welcome to Flat, Cool, and Acid-Free, an OK State Archives podcast, bringing you stories about Oklahoma State University and Oklahoma. I'm Nina Thornton, multimedia producer for the OSU Libraries. On this episode, events intern Taylor Hatheway and Bonnie Cain-Wood, communications manager of the OSU Libraries, discuss how the Cobb Speaker Series has evolved since it first started.
The Louise H.E. Ed Cobb Speaker Series began in 1991 as the primary fundraising event for the Friends of the OSU Library, where all proceeds from the event directly benefit the OSU Libraries. This speaker series was created to highlight outstanding bodies of work that have profoundly influenced the way we understand ourselves and the world around us. H.E. Ed Cobb was the CEO of Tokeland Oil and Gas Company of Tulsa and a founding member of the Friends of the OSU Library. Louise Cobb, his wife, graduated from Oklahoma A&M College in 1949 with a bachelor's degree in home economics. While at OAMC, she was a charter member of the Alpha Chi Omega sorority and also served as a chapter president in 1948. She passed away in 1992. In 1994, Mr. Cobb and his 3 children established a substantial endowment to fund a speaker for the annual Friends of the Library banquet. Beginning in 1995, the event was named after Mrs. Cobb, and the event was called the Louise Cobb and the Friends of the Library Speaker Series. After Mr. Cobb passed away in 1999, his children chose to honor both parents by renaming the event the Louise and H.E. Ed Cobb Speaker Series. The Cobb family has continued to support the Speaker Series and has allowed the event to be an ongoing success. This series is presented annually by the Friends of the OSU Library, and each year's speaker is chosen non-competitively by a selected committee. Funds from the Louise and H.E. Ed Cobb Lecture Series endowment are used to pay the speaker fees for the authors featured at the event, and the growing endowment means the Friends will be able to continue hosting prestigious authors. Past authors who have spoken at the annual event include Nicholas Sparks, James Patterson, Neil deGrasse Tyson, Boone Pickens, S.E. Hinton, and more. The family of Louise and Ed have continued the couple's legacy of supporting the OSU Library. Each year, the Cobbs sponsor a table at the dinner, and the children and grandchildren of Louise and Ed attend the event. Patrick Cobb, son of Ed and Louise, and his daughter-in-law, Hannah Cobb, now serve on the Friends of the OSU Library Board of Directors. This event has changed over the years, with what was once a dinner in the Peggy V. Helmrich browsing room with a black tie dress code evolving into a much larger dinner at the ConocoPhillips Alumni Center with a cowboy chic dress code. However, while the event has continued to grow, the goal of the night has stayed the same: to have an enjoyable night listening to your favorite authors speak while also raising money for the OSU Libraries. So when did you first start working the Cobb Speaker Series, and what did it look like that first year?
So the first Cobb dinner that I worked would have been our 1999 event. And our speaker was Doris Kearns Goodwin, who was a really big draw for us. I think the NPR crowd really turns out for this event. But it looked a lot different than it does today. So one of the big differences back in the 90s was we were having the event in the library. So we had our sit-down dinner in the Peggy V. Helmrich browsing room. So it was much smaller. That room will hold 175 at tables. So that would have been max capacity for that event. It was business attire, black tie optional, which is a little different than what we have now. And 2, working that event, because we were doing it here in the library, we were renting all of the tables, all of the linens. We were setting up everything ourselves. So we would spend days leading up to the event, getting the room and the different spaces ready. I remember, I think it was that year, I wore a step counter, and I walked over 5 miles without ever leaving the building.
So how has the Speaker Series changed through the years? Because you mentioned it started out in the library, had a smaller capacity room, and then now it's grown. It's become a bigger event. So how has it kind of evolved over the years?
Sure. So we have changed locations, in part because the series grew. We outgrew the browsing room, and for a while we were using both the browsing room and the reading room. And so we have relocated. So most years we're at the ConocoPhillips OSU Alumni Center. We've also held it at Sparrow's Beginnings, which is a very nice venue here. It's kind of on the edge of town. So the location's very different. The event has actually gotten more casual, which kind of surprised me in a way, but it was something that our donors wanted. They said they have to get dressed up and go do these kind of things all the time, and it would be great to just be able to wear your jeans and go have a fun night with some friends, and it would take some of the pressure off. And so we relaxed the event a little bit. So our dress code is now cowboy chic. We've added live music to it. And over the years, it's just continued to grow. So that's been really exciting to see.
What do you think is the biggest difference in how the speaker series looked when you first started working and versus now?
Honestly, I think just that little shift in the dress code really changed the whole vibe, right? It's a very fun evening. And that's one thing that we really hope people leave thinking, that they had a good time, that they got together, they talked to some nice folks, they heard an interesting author, maybe got some ideas for new books they want to read, got their books signed, just had a good time.
Yeah. Which speakers have produced the largest turnout for the event?
So our record-breaking event across the board would have to be Boone Pickens. We had the most tickets sold. I checked our stats just this morning because I knew you were going to ask this. We had 384 people, which is at capacity. I think we might have even had a couple staff eating in a separate room. And we had a waiting list on top of that. And that event also had record profits for that year. So we raised over $31,000 that one night for the Friends of the OSU Library.
The speakers are chosen by a committee, and it's a non-competitive process, but do you know the kind of factors that go into it?
Lots of our authors that we select, we've actually spent years getting to that point. So we always keep kind of what we call the long list, just like authors that people have told us that, hey, they might be interested in. We put those on the long list. Then we develop our short list by working with our Friends of the OSU Library Board of Directors. So we'll give them a list of potential candidates. We try to visit with some of the agents ahead of time so we can get kind of a sense of cost and who would be realistic for us and for our event. And we let our board kind of narrow it down from there. Sometimes they'll give us a top 3, sometimes a top 5, and from there we start contacting the agents to see who's available in our time frame, and more importantly, who is willing to do the kind of event that we do. Because the kinds of authors, you could be the best author in the whole wide world, sitting at your desk. That doesn't mean that you enjoy standing in front of a crowd of 350 people and talking for an hour. And so we have a lot of components to our event. There's a VIP meet and greet, there's the keynote address, there's the dinner, there's the book signing, and not everybody is comfortable or willing to do those sort of things. We've had certain authors that wouldn't do certain days of the week because of their travel or recording schedules. And so a lot of it is just kind of some back and forth with the agents to see who is going to be the best fit for us. We've also had folks that, didn't work out for one reason or another, timing wise, year after year, and then finally, like, third time's a charm, and we're able to book them. So a lot of different factors go into it, and a lot of it comes down to who is available to do our kind of event at the time that our event's going to be that year.
Imagine there's just no limits on this. Who would be your dream author to come speak? I'm kind of putting you on the spot with that one, but
that's an interesting question, because I feel like we have some authors who would be a huge draw, right? And then there's also authors that I would want to see personally. I think Stephen King has been on our list. Stephen King might be a little out of our price range for this particular event, but you never know.
You can dream.
We can dream. I keep slipping Neil Gaiman back onto the list. I think Neil Gaiman would be a huge draw, and I would love to see him.
Who have you enjoyed listening to the most?
Who has been my favorite? We've had a lot of really great authors It was kind of exciting to get to meet Boone Pickens.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he's such a celebrity on our campus and has done so much for the OSU community. It was really exciting to get to meet Boone in person and kind of escort him around that evening. I bought special orange shoes. I still call them my Boone Pickens heels. Ken Burns was just a delight. Such a doll, so charming, and just really, really just sweet and genuine. He was very nice to work with and was a big draw and gave a great talk and really made he visited with everybody at that event and made everyone feel special. James Patterson was also lots of fun. I had been reading James Patterson for a long, like since I was in high school, I'd been reading James Patterson books. And you never know what to expect when you meet these people, especially folks who are like big time famous. But James Patterson was just very down to earth and very, very nice and humble and so funny. He was hilarious. And Craig Johnson was also just one of the most charismatic people I've ever met. So he just really captures the room when he walks in. So he was very fun too.
Yeah. You work the event every year. So what exactly do you do during the event? Just kind of odd jobs, or is it whatever is needed?
Well, it has changed from year to year. You know, the event has a variety of stations. And we also kind of think about it as far as working the event, sort of front of house and back of house. So you might be working the reception table. You might be back in the VIP meet and greet. You might be taking photos. You might be running back and forth between caterers and AV crew. I have worked the event long enough that oftentimes I'm kind of floating from station to station. So wherever something is blowing up, that is probably where I am working at that point.
So what's your favorite part about the series, whether it has to do with working it or just being there and getting to listen? What do you enjoy the most?
Ooh, what do I enjoy the most? So I think this is going to sound kind of funny, but I really enjoy the end of the event the most. When everyone is kind of packing up and gathering their things and leaving at the end of the event, because that's the point where we get to kind of look back on it and it's like, okay, we did it. We pulled it off. All the work happened, people came, everything went smoothly, you know, and even when it doesn't go smoothly, as long as our guests don't know that nothing's going smoothly, then it went smoothly. So I kind of like that right when things are kind of wrapping up, and like the Cobb family, who has been so generous for the event and so supportive over the years, they always like to kind of hang back and be the very last ones to go through the line for the book signing. And so it's kind of nice to kind of get to see them close it out and just kind of hear everyone kind of talking about how they enjoyed the evening as they leave.
And the Cobb family comes every year, and I think they sponsor a table.
Yes, so the Cobb family created the endowment that funds our speaker costs for this event, which is so integral to making this a financially successful fundraiser. And because it's an endowment, it grows over the years. So we've been able to kind of steadily bring in speakers with a little higher speaking fee, which is wonderful. And yes, the Cobbs, I believe, have attended every single event. They always sponsor a table. They've brought their children, I think grandchildren at certain points. So they've just been very, very supportive of the event. And that's always great to see too. That is not just their name on the event, but
they're a part of it.
They are there. They are a part of it every year. We've done a lot of things to, I think, just make the event more fun and make the event a little more approachable. You know, we've got the casual dress code. It's a bigger event. We've added the music, and so it's an evening.
The music is It's a Process, composed by Ben Stone and Finley Green, and published by BBC Production Music, PRS. From the folks at Oklahoma State University Libraries and the Archives, thanks for listening. And always remember to keep your archival material flat, cool, and acid-free.